people are putting away new cars and people are trying to drive up the value of these cars. And there's all these collections of perfect, untouched, low mileage cars that have never been driven.
SUVs have always been marketed as dependable family vehicles built for the long haul. They promise safety, comfort, and the ability to handle whatever life throws at you. Whether it's long road trips, daily commutes, or rough weather. But sometimes, the promise doesn't match reality. Over the years, certain SUVs have earned a reputation for failing much earlier than expected, leaving frustrated owners with expensive repair bills. Many of these issues showed up well before the 50,000-mile mark, which is shocking considering most people expect to easily double or triple that before facing major problems. In this video, we'll go through 14 SUVs that simply couldn't hold up. From engine problems to faulty transmissions and design flaws, these vehicles struggled to deliver on reliability. If you've ever owned one of these, you'll know the pain. And if you're shopping for a used SUV, these are the ones you'll want to think twice about. Number 14. Nissan Rogue. When the Nissan Rogue first hit the market, it looked like an affordable and practical option for families. With its compact size, decent fuel economy, and reputation as a no-frills everyday SUV, many people expected it to last a long time. Unfortunately, the early models came with one big weakness: the continuously variable transmission, better known as the CVT. Unlike traditional automatic transmissions, CVTs don't shift gears in the usual way. They use a belt and pulley system designed for smoother acceleration and better fuel economy. On paper, that sounded like progress. In reality, it turned out to be one of the Rogue's biggest headaches. Owners quickly noticed problems such as whining noises, jerky acceleration, and sudden loss of power. In hot weather or during long drives, the transmission would overheat, forcing the car into limp mode, where it drastically reduced power to protect itself. These problems often showed up much sooner than anyone expected. Some Rogue owners reported transmission failures with as little as 25,000 to 40,000 miles on the odometer. Instead of a reliable family hauler, the Rogue turned into a source of stress and costly repairs. Replacing the CVT was not cheap, and in many cases, it cost almost as much as the vehicle was worth at the time. Nissan eventually extended the warranty on the CVT for certain models, but the damage to its reputation was already done. Many mechanics considered the early Rogue a poor choice for anyone who wanted long-term dependability. Unlike some mechanical issues that could be solved with regular maintenance, the CVT's design flaws meant problems would keep coming back. To make matters worse, there weren't many aftermarket solutions to truly fix the problem. Some owners tried installing additional coolers for the transmission, hoping to reduce overheating. While this sometimes delayed the failure, it didn't always save the transmission. In the end, the Rogue became one of those SUVs that simply wasn't built for the long run. If you're considering one today, you'll want to be cautious. Later versions of the Rogue had improvements, but those early years made it clear that the model had serious growing pains. For a family vehicle, breaking down before 50,000 miles is unacceptable, and the Rogue unfortunately earned its spot on this list. Number 13. Chevrolet Equinox. The Chevrolet Equinox was supposed to be a solid choice in the mid-size SUV category. It had the right size, a familiar American badge, and a design that appealed to families looking for a dependable daily driver. On the surface, it looked like a safe buy. But once owners started putting miles on it, a big problem showed up. Its engine didn't age well. The issue centered on the 2.4-liter four-cylinder engine that powered many of these SUVs. At first, it seemed fuel-efficient and practical, but it turned out to be one of the most problematic engines General Motors ever produced. The problem was excessive oil consumption. Owners noticed that the oil levels would drop rapidly between oil changes, sometimes requiring quarts of oil every few thousand miles. Many people didn't realize how serious this was until it was too late. When engines burn oil at that rate, it creates a chain reaction of problems. Running low on oil starves internal parts, leading to accelerated wear. The timing chain, which keeps the engine's moving parts in sync, was especially vulnerable. Once that chain started to stretch, drivers reported rough idling, rattling noises, and eventually engine failure. All of this was happening far too early. Many SUVs had these major problems before even hitting 50,000 miles. To make matters worse, a lot of owners assumed that routine oil changes every 5,000 miles would keep things safe. What they didn't know was that the oil could burn off completely between services. By the time the warning light appeared, serious damage had already been done. Mechanics who saw these engines opened them up to find sludge, worn parts, and damaged timing components. The repair costs were not small. Replacing a timing chain is a big job, and if the engine had been starved of oil for too long, a complete engine replacement was sometimes the only option. That turned what was supposed to be an affordable SUV into a very expensive mistake. While later models of the Equinox improved on some of these problems, the damage was already done for earlier owners. The SUV's reputation for burning oil stuck, and it earned a spot on many do not buy lists for used vehicles. Families that just wanted a reliable SUV for commuting and trips ended up spending thousands on repairs they never expected. That's why the Equinox deserves a place on this list of SUVs that failed long before their time. Number 12. Mazda CX-7. The Mazda CX-7 looked like a sporty and stylish SUV that combined everyday practicality with the fun of turbocharged power. When it launched, it caught people's attention because it didn't feel like the typical boring family SUV. It had sharp looks, strong acceleration, and a driving experience that made it stand out. But under the hood, the very thing that made it exciting turned out to be its biggest weakness. The CX-7 used a turbocharged 2.3-liter engine. On paper, it offered plenty of power and quick response, but in reality, it had a major flaw. It was extremely sensitive to heat and oil maintenance. Turbos run hot, and this engine relied heavily on oil for lubrication and cooling. The problem came when owners followed long oil change intervals or drove mostly on short trips. The oil would break down, leaving sludge and carbon buildup inside the engine. This buildup starved the turbocharger of proper lubrication, causing it to wear out far too quickly. Some owners experienced complete turbo failure with as little as 30,000 to 40,000 miles. Along with the turbo issues, the timing chain system in this engine was also a common weak spot. Once the chain stretched or the variable valve timing actuator failed, drivers would hear loud rattles on startup, and in many cases, the engine would eventually stop running properly. The biggest frustration was that these issues weren't easy or cheap to fix. Replacing a turbocharger is expensive, and combining that with timing chain repairs made the CX-7 a costly vehicle to maintain. Owners who thought they were buying a long-lasting family SUV quickly learned that it could become a money pit well before 50,000 miles. Another problem was the lack of forgiveness. Some engines will tolerate delayed oil changes or rough use for a while before showing issues. The CX-7 wasn't one of them. If the oil wasn't changed on time with high-quality synthetic oil, problems showed up fast. Even careful owners sometimes found themselves dealing with major repairs because the design simply didn't handle heat well. While Mazda has built some very reliable vehicles, the CX-7 wasn't one of them. It had the potential to be a great SUV, but its engine design doomed it. For many families, the dream of owning a fun and sporty SUV turned into a nightmare of early breakdowns, expensive shop visits, and regret. That's why the CX-7 sits firmly on this list of SUVs that rarely made it past 50,000 miles without serious trouble. Number 11. Jeep Cherokee. The Jeep Cherokee has always been a recognizable name in the SUV world, known for its rugged image and connection to off-road capability. When the modern version returned to the market, many people expected a comfortable, dependable SUV with Jeep toughness built in. At first glance, it seemed to check those boxes with a sharp design, good interior space, and plenty of technology. But underneath, the Cherokee carried a big problem that showed up very early for many owners. The issue was its transmission. Jeep introduced a brand new 9-speed automatic transmission in this model, and it was supposed to improve fuel economy and provide smooth shifting. Unfortunately, in real-world use, it turned into one of the biggest headaches drivers could face. Instead of smooth gear changes, owners reported rough shifts, sudden jerks, and hesitation when trying to accelerate. In some cases, it would take several seconds for the transmission to respond after shifting into drive or reverse. These problems weren't just small annoyances. They affected the driving experience on a daily basis, and in some cases, they left people feeling unsafe on the road. Imagine trying to merge onto a highway only to have your SUV hesitate or shift awkwardly. That's not the confidence anyone wants in a vehicle, especially one with Jeep's reputation. The troubling part was how early these issues showed up. Many owners began noticing rough shifting and transmission failure symptoms before the SUV even crossed 50,000 miles. Dealerships often tried to solve the problems by updating the software that controlled the transmission, but those fixes didn't always last. Some drivers returned multiple times for reprogramming, only to experience the same problems again. Repair costs for a transmission are never small. If the Cherokee was under warranty, the manufacturer often covered the expense. But once that warranty was gone, owners faced the possibility of thousands of dollars in repairs. This turned what was supposed to be a reliable family SUV into an unpredictable money drain. The Cherokee's transmission problems overshadowed everything else about the SUV. Even though it had a nice design and decent features, the constant complaints about its drivetrain made it difficult to recommend. For many people, it became a lesson in avoiding vehicles with untested new technology. Instead of lasting well beyond 50,000 miles, too many Cherokees ended up in repair shops long before their time. That's why it earns a clear place on this list. Number 10. Ford Explorer. The Ford Explorer is one of the most recognizable SUVs in America. For decades, it has been a family favorite, offering space, comfort, and the promise of reliability. Unfortunately, some versions of the Explorer did not live up to that reputation. While many people expected the Explorer to last well over 100,000 miles, a large number of owners were dealing with serious problems before even reaching the 50,000-mile mark. One of the biggest issues came from its transmission. Certain Explorers were plagued with early transmission failures, with symptoms like rough shifting, slipping between gears, delayed acceleration, and sudden jerks when trying to speed up. For a vehicle meant to carry families on long trips, these problems made driving stressful and sometimes dangerous. Some owners described situations where their SUV wouldn't move smoothly when merging onto highways, creating a serious safety concern. Another area of concern was the cooling system. Many Explorers suffered from radiator and water pump failures earlier than expected. The water pump, in particular, was a known weak spot because it was buried inside the engine. When it failed, coolant would leak into the oil, causing major engine damage. Instead of a simple fix, owners often face the possibility of needing a complete engine replacement. To make matters worse, these failures didn't happen after years of use. They were showing up well before 50,000 miles, leaving owners shocked. The combination of transmission issues and engine cooling problems meant that many families who trusted the Explorer ended up stuck with costly repairs. Even though Ford offered warranty coverage in some cases, the stress of repeated trips to the service center made the experience frustrating. And once the warranty expired, the financial burden was on the owner. What made this worse was that the Explorer had a strong reputation in earlier years, so people didn't expect such major problems so soon. Buyers thought they were making a safe choice, but instead, they found themselves facing one expensive repair after another. For an SUV that was supposed to represent dependability, the reality was far different. Because of these serious problems that surfaced far too early in ownership, the Ford Explorer earned its place on this list. It showed that even trusted names can deliver disappointing results when design flaws and reliability issues come together. For many families, the Explorer was supposed to be a long-term vehicle, but instead, it turned into an early breakdown story. Number 9. Dodge Journey. The Dodge Journey looked like the perfect family SUV on paper. It was affordable, had 3 rows of seating, and seemed like a practical choice for parents who wanted extra space without spending too much. Many buyers were drawn to its low price compared to competitors, believing they were getting a bargain. But, as owners quickly found out, the Dodge Journey's cost-cutting came at a big price later on. One of the most common complaints was with its engine and transmission. The base 4-cylinder engine was underpowered for the size of the SUV, and when paired with an outdated 4-speed automatic transmission, it struggled to keep up. Drivers often reported sluggish acceleration, loud engine noise, and poor fuel economy. But more importantly, these weak components led to early failures. Transmissions slipped, gears hesitated, and in many cases, major repairs were needed long before 50,000 miles. The V6 version had more power, but it wasn't free from problems either. Many owners faced issues with premature water pump and cooling system failures, which could lead to overheating and engine damage. Add in electrical system glitches, faulty sensors, and failing air conditioning units, and the Journey became a regular visitor to repair shops. What made the situation worse was Dodge's reputation for cutting corners on interior quality. Owners noticed parts wearing out too quickly, from loose trim pieces to malfunctioning electronics. Combined with the mechanical issues, This gave the Journey a reputation for feeling cheap and unreliable. For families who bought the Journey as a budget-friendly SUV, the reality was disappointing. They expected a vehicle that could handle years of school runs, vacations, and daily commutes, but instead, many were stuck paying for repairs that piled up before hitting 50,000 miles. Transmission replacements, engine repairs, and electrical fixes added up to costs that completely erased the initial savings of buying it in the first place. The Dodge Journey's problems made it one of the least reliable SUVs of its time. While it may have been attractive for its low price and roomy interior, it simply couldn't hold up under real-world use. For many owners, the SUV turned into more of a burden than a benefit, proving that a cheaper sticker price doesn't always mean true value. That's why the Dodge Journey deserves a firm spot on this list of SUVs that failed long before they should have. Number 8. GMC Acadia. The GMC Acadia was marketed as a stylish and spacious SUV that could carry the whole family in comfort. With its roomy 3-row layout, smooth ride, and upscale design, it seemed like a solid choice for people wanting something between a minivan and a traditional SUV. At first glance, it checked all the boxes. But under the hood and behind the scenes, the Acadia was hiding some serious problems that showed up far too early in ownership. One of the most common complaints came from the transmission. Many Acadia owners reported issues like hard shifts, slipping gears, and hesitation when trying to accelerate. These symptoms often appeared well before 50,000 miles, which is shocking for a vehicle in this price range. In some cases, the transmission failed completely, leaving families stranded and stuck with expensive repair bills. The engine wasn't much better. The Acadia's timing chain system became a known weak spot, especially in models with the 3.6-liter V6. Stretching timing chains caused rough idling, poor performance, and illuminated check engine lights. If ignored, these issues could lead to serious engine damage. For some unlucky owners, the timing chain needed to be replaced while the vehicle was still relatively new. An extremely costly repair that no one expects so early in ownership. The Acadia also had problems with its power steering system. Many drivers reported sudden loss of power steering assist, making the SUV harder to control. This not only made driving stressful, but also created real safety concerns, especially when it happened at lower speeds or during parking maneuvers. Adding to the frustration, the Acadia was also known for electrical glitches and faulty sensors. From malfunctioning air conditioning units to dashboard warning lights that wouldn't go away, the SUV often felt like it was spending more time in the repair shop than on the road. For buyers who thought they were getting a premium family SUV, these problems came as a rude surprise. Instead of lasting comfortably beyond 100,000 miles, many Acadias were plagued with breakdowns before even hitting 50,000. The high cost of repairs and the constant inconvenience left many owners regretting their purchase. The GMC Acadia showed that even vehicles designed to look upscale can fall apart early if they aren't engineered properly. Families needed something dependable, but instead, they got a vehicle that often wore out its welcome before it even reached the middle of its life. That's why the Acadia earns its place on this list of SUVs that didn't make it past 50,000 miles without major trouble. Number 7. Chrysler Pacifica, first-generation SUV crossover. Before Chrysler reintroduced the Pacifica as a minivan, it first existed as a crossover SUV in the mid-2000s. On paper, It looked like a smart family hauler with a sleek design, plenty of interior room, and a badge tied to American tradition. Many buyers thought they were getting a step up from the competition, a vehicle that offered both practicality and comfort. But reality didn't take long to show that this version of the Pacifica was one of the weakest SUVs when it came to long-term durability. One of the most frequent problems came from the transmission. Owners began noticing rough shifts, slipping gears, and delays in acceleration well before their Pacifica even reached 50,000 miles. In some cases, complete transmission failure occurred, forcing expensive replacements that cost thousands of dollars. For families expecting dependability, this was a huge disappointment. The engine also suffered from problems that made it unreliable over time. Many Pacificas developed oil leaks, engine knocking, and timing chain wear far too early in their lifespan. Some vehicles required engine rebuilds or replacements before the odometer reached even 60,000 miles. A major engine repair that early is enough to push any SUV into the avoid category. Adding to the trouble was the vehicle's suspension system. Owners complained about premature wear of front-end components, leading to clunks, vibrations, and poor handling. Even with regular maintenance, the parts wore out far sooner than expected, creating repair bills that added up quickly. Interior quality didn't help the Pacifica's reputation either. Drivers reported electronics that stopped working, power seat failures, and issues with the HVAC system. The SUV may have looked comfortable and upscale at first, but the inside aged quickly, adding to the list of frustrations. What made all of this worse was Chrysler's reputation at the time for inconsistent reliability. Many Pacifica owners felt like they were stuck with a vehicle that constantly needed something fixed. Instead of lasting past 100,000 miles like a dependable family SUV should, this model often required major repairs before hitting 50,000. The first-generation Chrysler Pacifica was a clear example of a vehicle that promised a lot but failed to deliver on durability. While it offered space and comfort, its weak drivetrain, costly breakdowns, and constant repairs made it one of the most disappointing SUVs of its era. For many families, it turned into a financial headache instead of the long-lasting solution they hoped for. Number 6. Saturn Outlook. The Saturn Outlook was introduced as part of GM's big push into the three-row crossover SUV market. Sharing much of its design and engineering with the GMC Acadia and Buick Enclave, the Outlook was meant to give Saturn a family-friendly flagship that combined space, comfort, and style. For many buyers, it seemed like a smart choice, a roomy SUV that could replace the traditional minivan. Unfortunately, reliability problems made sure it didn't last long, both in the marketplace and in the driveways of disappointed owners. One of the most serious issues with the Saturn Outlook was its transmission. Many owners reported slipping gears, delayed engagement, and complete transmission failures well before the 50,000-mile mark. Considering the SUV was marketed as a dependable family hauler, these early breakdowns were a major blow. The repair costs were steep, often leaving families with bills that were hard to justify on a vehicle that wasn't very old. The Outlook also struggled with engine-related problems. Just like its sibling, the GMC Acadia, it had issues with timing chains stretching prematurely. When the timing chain wears out, it can cause misfires, rattling noises, and even catastrophic engine damage if ignored. Many Outlook owners found themselves facing timing chain replacements far earlier than they ever expected. Electrical problems were another weak point. Faulty sensors, dashboard warning lights, and malfunctioning air conditioning systems were common complaints. For a vehicle marketed as modern and family-focused, these constant annoyances gave owners little peace of mind. Add in water leaks from poorly sealed sunroofs and rear hatches, and the SUV felt like it was wearing down much faster than it should. The suspension system didn't hold up well either. Premature wear of struts and bushings created clunks and vibrations, making the ride less comfortable over time. Combined with the heavy weight of the SUV, these issues only worsened as miles added up. What truly hurt the Outlook's reputation was how early these problems appeared. Many families bought it with the expectation that it would serve them reliably for years, but instead, major repairs started appearing before 50,000 miles. That kind of track record left buyers frustrated and financially strained. The Saturn brand itself eventually disappeared, and with it, the Outlook faded from the market. But for those who owned one, the memory of costly repairs and constant headaches lived on. The Outlook had potential as a spacious and comfortable SUV, but its weak transmission, engine flaws, and poor durability secured its place on this list of vehicles that simply didn't make it far enough. Number 5. Jeep Liberty. The Jeep Liberty was designed to be a rugged alternative to compact crossovers, giving drivers the Jeep name and a promise of off-road ability in a smaller package. At first glance, it looked appealing. Boxy styling, a solid stance, and the brand's reputation for adventure. Many people bought it thinking they were getting a dependable SUV that could handle both daily commuting and weekend getaways. Unfortunately, reality painted a very different picture. One of the most common complaints about the Jeep Liberty was its transmission. Owners frequently reported rough shifting, hesitation when accelerating, and even complete transmission failures before reaching 50,000 miles. For a vehicle that carried the Jeep name, known for durability, these issues were a serious letdown. Families who thought they were buying peace of mind ended up spending thousands of dollars on major repairs far too soon. The engine also caused plenty of problems. Many Liberty models suffered from oil leaks, premature valve train wear, and cooling system failures. Radiators and water pumps were known to give out early, leading to overheating issues. In some cases, this caused significant engine damage, forcing owners into costly rebuilds or replacements. When these failures happen before the 50,000-mile mark, it leaves owners frustrated and feeling betrayed by the brand. Electrical issues were another major headache. Owners complained about failing power windows, malfunctioning sensors, and dashboard lights that came on without reason. While these problems didn't always leave the vehicle stranded, they made ownership stressful and added to repair bills that stacked up quickly. The suspension and steering system also wore out earlier than expected. Many Liberty owners reported clunking noises, poor ride quality, and loose handling after just a few years of use. This not only hurt the driving experience, but also made the SUV feel unstable over time. For many buyers, the Jeep Liberty was a disappointment because it carried the Jeep badge but didn't live up to the brand's reputation for toughness. Instead of being a long-lasting family SUV or off-road companion, it became a money pit that drained wallets before hitting the mileage most people consider normal for routine reliability. The Liberty had the looks and the name, but not the long-term strength. Too many owners faced early breakdowns, repeated trips to the mechanic, and costly repairs that no SUV at this price point should demand so soon. That's why the Jeep Liberty firmly belongs on this list of SUVs that rarely made it past 50,000 miles without serious trouble. Number 4. Kia Sorento. The Kia Sorento was introduced as an affordable mid-size SUV that promised style, space, and value for money. With sharp looks and a reputation for offering more features at a lower price, it attracted many families looking for a dependable vehicle without the premium price tag. At first, it seemed like a smart choice, but for many owners, the Sorento turned into one of the most frustrating SUVs to own, thanks to major problems that often appeared before the 50,000-mile mark. The most serious issue came from its engine. Many Sorentos suffered from catastrophic engine failures far earlier than expected. Owners reported knocking noises, stalling, and eventually complete engine seizure. These problems often came from poor internal engine design, leading to premature wear and, in some cases, metal debris circulating through the motor. Once this happened, the only real solution was a full engine replacement, a nightmare for owners who thought they were buying a reliable family SUV. Another area of concern was the transmission. Owners complained of harsh shifting, slipping between gears, and sudden power loss while driving. Some vehicles even needed complete transmission replacements within just a few years of ownership. For an SUV meant to last for family road trips and long commutes, these problems came far too early. The Sorento also had issues with electrical components. Drivers reported failing sensors, dashboard warning lights that wouldn't turn off, and problems with ignition systems. These constant electrical headaches made the SUV feel unreliable, even when the engine and transmission were working properly. Adding to the frustration were suspension and steering problems. Many owners noticed clunking noises, vibrations, and worn-out components long before they should have failed. Combined with engine and transmission troubles, the overall ownership experience often felt like one repair after another. What made it worse was the fact that Kia marketed the Sorento as a durable SUV backed by a long warranty. While some repairs were covered, the inconvenience of repeated breakdowns and the stress of dealing with major mechanical failures left many families regretting their purchase. For those unlucky enough to experience engine failure just outside of warranty coverage, the financial impact was devastating. Instead of being the dependable, affordable SUV that buyers hoped for, the Sorento became a symbol of early breakdowns and costly repairs. Its combination of engine, transmission, and electrical failures made it one of the most unreliable SUVs of its time, earning it a place on this list of vehicles that often didn't make it past 50,000 miles without serious trouble. Number 3. Chevrolet Traverse. The Chevrolet Traverse entered the market as a family-friendly three-row SUV designed to replace the minivan for many households. It offered lots of interior space, modern styling, and the promise of comfort for both short commutes and long road trips. On paper, it looked like a dependable choice for families who needed room for kids, luggage, and more. Unfortunately, beneath the stylish design and practical layout, the Traverse carried some serious reliability problems that showed up much earlier than they should have. One of the biggest issues involved the transmission. Many Traverse owners began experiencing harsh shifting, slipping, and even complete transmission failure before the SUV crossed 50,000 miles. These weren't small hiccups. They were major failures that often left people stranded. Repairing or replacing a transmission is one of the most expensive fixes a vehicle can require, and the fact that it was happening so soon left owners shocked and frustrated. The engine wasn't much better. The Traverse's 3.6-liter V6 had a well-documented problem with timing chain wear. Instead of lasting for the life of the engine, the timing chain would stretch early, leading to rattling noises, poor performance, and engine codes that triggered costly repairs. In severe cases, ignoring the issue caused complete engine failure. For many unlucky owners, these problems surfaced far too early, making the SUV feel unreliable almost from the start. On top of that, the Traverse had issues with its cooling system. Water pump and radiator failures were not uncommon, and when these parts went bad, they risked overheating the engine. A cooling system failure combined with timing chain problems often meant massive repair bills, sometimes higher than what the SUV was even worth. Electrical issues added another layer of frustration. Owners complained about failing sensors, dashboard lights that wouldn't stay off, and even problems with the power steering system cutting out at low speeds. These issues made driving stressful and added to the growing reputation that the Traverse was simply not built to last. Families who bought the Traverse expected a reliable long-term vehicle, but instead, they found themselves facing breakdowns, towing costs, and repeated trips to the mechanic. For an SUV designed to carry children and loved ones safely, it didn't deliver on the most important promise: dependability. The early failures of its transmission, engine, and electrical systems made it one of the least reliable SUVs in its class, and that's why the Chevrolet Traverse deserves its spot on this list. Number 2. Dodge Durango. The Dodge Durango was built to be a tough, full-size SUV with plenty of power, towing capacity, and space for the whole family. On the surface, it seemed like a great choice for people who wanted a rugged vehicle that could handle everything from long road trips to hauling trailers. Unfortunately, the reality for many owners was very different. The Durango earned a reputation for serious problems that often showed up far too early, sometimes before the SUV even made it to 50,000 miles. One of the biggest trouble spots was the engine. Certain models of the Durango were plagued by engine failures that came from poor internal design and cooling problems. Owners reported knocking noises, oil leaks, and, in some cases, complete engine seizure. For a vehicle marketed as strong and reliable, having engines fail this soon was unacceptable and financially devastating for owners. The transmission wasn't much better. Many Durangos suffered from harsh shifting, hesitation, and even total transmission failure early in their lifespan. These problems often left owners stranded and facing repair bills in the thousands. The idea of replacing or rebuilding a transmission before even reaching 50,000 miles turned what was supposed to be a family SUV into a major liability. Electrical issues also haunted the Durango. Drivers complained about faulty sensors, dashboard lights flashing without cause, and ignition problems that made the SUV unreliable. In some cases, the vehicle would suddenly stall or fail to start, creating safety risks and endless frustration. Combined with the already heavy repair costs from engine and transmission problems, these electrical issues added insult to injury. Another area of concern was the suspension and steering components. Premature wear on ball joints, bushings, and tie rods created clunking noises and handling issues that showed up well before the vehicle had seen significant use. Instead of providing confidence and control, the Durango often felt unstable as it aged. For families, this was a huge disappointment. The Durango was supposed to be the dependable workhorse that could carry kids, towboats, and survive long-distance driving. Instead, too many owners were stuck with an SUV that was constantly in the shop and costing them thousands of dollars. The Dodge Durango had the looks, the power, and the name recognition, but it failed to live up to the most important standard: lasting reliability. Its combination of engine failures, transmission breakdowns, and electrical nightmares made it one of the least trustworthy SUVs on the market. That's why it secures its spot high on this list of vehicles that often didn't make it past 50,000 miles. Number 1. Ford Edge. The Ford Edge was introduced as a stylish midsize SUV designed to give drivers comfort, technology, and performance in a sleek package. It was marketed as the perfect balance between practicality and modern design. Families loved its roomy interior and smooth ride, while commuters appreciated the fuel economy compared to larger SUVs. On paper, it was supposed to be a dependable all-around vehicle. But in reality, too many Ford Edge owners faced problems that showed up far too early, sometimes well before the 50,000-mile mark. One of the most notorious issues came from the engine. Certain Edge models were prone to oil leaks, engine stalling, and complete engine failure. Some owners reported strange ticking noises, excessive oil consumption, and rough idling not long after buying the SUV. In the worst cases, the engine seized, leaving drivers stranded. For many families, this meant paying thousands of dollars for repairs or facing the decision to replace the engine altogether. The transmission also created headaches. Instead of delivering smooth shifts, many Edge SUVs suffered from slipping gears, jerking movements, and hesitation when accelerating. Some owners described situations where the SUV simply refused to engage properly when shifting from park to drive, creating unsafe driving conditions. These failures often happened far earlier than expected, and many vehicles needed major transmission work or replacement before 50,000 miles. Electrical problems added to the frustration. The Ford Edge became known for malfunctioning sensors, dashboard warning lights, and faulty ignition systems. Owners also reported issues with the power steering system cutting out unexpectedly, which created dangerous situations during daily driving. These recurring glitches made the SUV feel unreliable, even when its engine and transmission were still functioning. The cooling system wasn't much better. Water pump failures and radiator leaks led to overheating problems that often caused catastrophic engine damage. The most frustrating part was that these problems didn't show up after years of hard use. They appeared shockingly early, often while the vehicle was still under warranty or just outside of it. The Edge was supposed to give Ford a strong position in the midsize SUV market, but instead, it earned a reputation for unreliability. Families that wanted peace of mind instead found themselves dealing with constant repairs, tow trucks, and repair bills that stacked up quickly. Because of its engine failures, weak transmission, electrical troubles, and early breakdowns, the Ford Edge stands out as one of the most disappointing SUVs in its class. It was designed to be dependable, but for many owners, it turned into a burden that rarely made it past 50,000 miles without major trouble. That's why it takes the #1 spot on this list. SUVs are meant to be reliable workhorses that last well beyond 100,000 miles. But as we've seen, not every model lives up to that promise. From failing transmissions and weak engines to constant electrical headaches, these 14 SUVs often broke down long before they should have. For buyers, it was a painful reminder that reputation and style don't always equal dependability. The lesson here is simple. Always research before buying, check reliability records, and don't be fooled by good looks or low prices. A dependable SUV should give you peace of mind, not constant stress and expensive repairs.